Welcome to Fresh Rubber, Gav. You've got about as fresh rubber as we can get as this podcast goes, because you've just You just finished the Grand Prix. We are as fresh as it gets.
I cooked Japanese
it.
food. I cooked Japanese food for my kids, put them to bed, did the washing up, watched the race, watched the World Cup final today, and you just said to me, Jace, you were worried that I was too burnt out from the day to make it tonight, and we might have to do this tomorrow night, but I'm right here. I wouldn't miss it for the world. It's my favourite night of the week. Interesting race. I feel really conflicted about this race. On one hand, I found it really encouraging. These are my overarching themes. I found it really encouraging because there was a lot of... the racing was close. The racing was tight. If you look at the end, the final result, Leclerc and Kimi were only 1.9 seconds apart. Hamilton and Piastri were only 1.7 seconds. Norris and Hadjar were a measly 0.7 seconds. The racing was really close. I just felt like at the same time, if Kimi doesn't DNF or have some terrible Mercedes blunder, he is just going to win every race. And that kind of makes me a bit sad because, I want some other people to win. That said, statistically, we've had a different winner apart from today. We've had a different winner for the last four races. We had Czech's notes, Kimi in Monaco, Lewis in Spain, George in Austria, Leclerc in Silverstone. So maybe I'm wrong. Are we getting enough variety now? Winners this year? Is Kimi still just going to run away with it? Are we going to get the action that I want as a non-partisan supporter, where we might get a championship race? I don't know. But Spa, man, oh my gosh. If any track's going to punish you and your strategy and your tyres, it's going to be Spa, isn't it?
And your battery, it seems.
And your
Absolutely.
battery.
Can I just echo your thoughts about the closeness of the racing? Because, all the way from P1 down to P19, the gap between finishes is very close. And not just very close in an F1 sense, but very close over the longest circuit on the F1 calendar. This is the granddaddy, the longest racetrack that we have to race on. And to see them all finishing so close to each other is really cool. And there were big stretches of that race where P1 through P5 or P6 were separated by 1 or thereabouts a second. And just watching them go around and have that sort of close, hard-fought battle where it really did matter if you didn't maximize your lap time, if your battery deployment wasn't just so, you were not only in danger of missing your opportunity to go ahead, but at times you had people coming from behind to overtake you. There was one classic moment where I think it was Gasly trying to overtake someone, and Colapinto overtook them both. There was an amazing moment midway through the race. So I'm loving it. I'm loving the closeness. I'm loving how the cars don't seem to be affected by the turbulent wake that we've had in the past.
Yes.
If you remember seasons gone by where the Red Bull, because they had the aero package really nailed on with Adrian Newey, they were able to just whiz through that middle sector, the longest, this giant sector where it was all turning left and right, and your aero package was super important, and they were able to really nail that, but then get pegged back a little bit in the straights. This time round, it seemed like no one team and no one driver had the out and out clear advantage over the rest, and there were times where one driver would be able to make some step forward and then another would come back at them. I'm loving the closeness and the battles up and down the field, but I also wonder if maybe we should be a little bit grateful for the fragility of carbon fiber in this race, because by virtue of some close proximity racing, shall we say, there were bits and pieces of car just kind of gifted to the track, and that allowed there to be virtual safety cars, which really spiced up the action, because I think the second half of the race might have been a little bit dull if that hadn't been the case, and we didn't have the surprise addition to the podium of Charles Leclerc. What do you think, Gav? Do you think the virtual safety car gifted us really an entertaining end to the race, would you say?
Yeah, I think that the virtual safety car, it's one of the yeah, like I think I've talked about this a lot. Is one of the most, or the red flag, or the virtual safety car, or the full safety car, is such a brilliant thing for kind of leveling the playing field in a race. It packs everyone up together. It's also deeply unfair because wherever you are on the track, when there's a safety car or a red flag, if you're close to the pit entrance and your team are ready, then you can go and get some fresh tyres where others can't. I think someone who, like, looking at today's race, the person that really got hurt by that virtual safety car was Lando Norris. And the reason is actually because McLaren had an amazing strategy today. They started him on the hard and were planning to send him really, really deep into the race before swapping him onto a medium or maybe even a soft. But because he was on the hard, when that virtual safety car happened, basically bang in the middle of the race, he couldn't really go anywhere because he couldn't go onto another hard because you have to do a different, choose a different tyre type. And he couldn't go onto a medium or soft because they wouldn't have actually lasted. So Lando's like the biggest loser in my mind today of that. But that is F1. Like, that's F1.
I don't know that that's necessarily true, though, because plenty of the other drivers around Lando did exactly that. They did a medium stint to the midway of the race and then switched to the hards. So the length of stint was identical for both first and second stint. Leclerc did that.
That's fair. That's fair.
Hamilton did that. But I think where you're right is that McLaren didn't think they could get the medium to the end of the race. And so they chose not to go that route because the virtual safety car came out pretty much in the middle of the race. So they thought, well, let's go. And maybe they thought, well, let's go long enough that we could go to a soft tyre and really have the pace advantage. But yeah, I saw something, I think Lando made a comment afterwards that he thought that the tyre disadvantage that he had was worse than having pitted earlier under the virtual safety car because he would have gained time by doing so, even if his tyres were a little bit, worse for wear towards the end of the race. But I mean, talking of Lando, the dude started...
He had a great race.
P13 and he led the race for 2 laps. I mean, explain that. How on earth did that happen?
How that happened is everyone pitted under the virtual safety car and he didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to get too into the weeds with that, but I think what happens when everyone's on the medium and you're fighting from 13th, then everyone's kind of on the same page, but you're not. But then when everyone gets onto hards that are going to sustain for the second whole half of the race, those mediums really aren't going to stand up. But anyway, all to say, everyone on the commentary was agreeing with you. Like, Brundle was like desperate, like, why didn't they pit him? But it is what it is. But I do think the virtual safety car added some spice. I think, there were some real losers in today's race, weren't there? I think today it felt like there were more losers than from circumstance than any race I've seen this year. I think we can talk about George in a minute, but let's talk about Lewis. Let's talk about Lewis's 5-second penalty for his collision at Le Combe on the first lap of the race. I mean, look, guys, if you've been watching F1 for any Ferrari, Freudian slip, if you've been watching F1 for any amount of time, you know that incidents that happen on lap 1 normally, unless they're so grievous, they normally basically get disregarded as a racing incident because it's so hectic coming into those first 5 or 6 corners. No one really, it's actually organised chaos. But for some reason, the FIA decided to give Lewis a 5-second penalty for a little touch on George that, ended George's race. But even George, standing in the pen while the race was still going on, basically in tears about his race ending, said, in my mind, that was a racing incident. That was not Lewis's fault. Why does Lewis always get the harshest end of the stick? I feel like there's something about him that the FIA just want to beat sometimes.
Yeah, I don't have an answer. I mean,
it just feels like anyone else would not have got a 5-second penalty. Anyway, he fought bravely. And where did he end up? Where did Lewis end up in the end? P4. I mean, there was talk of him getting another penalty for the unsafe release where he ran over his engineer. But yeah, tough.
But talk about bad luck, right? So Lewis is he manages to get the run on Russell because Russell afterwards, very angrily on the radio complained about his battery deployment along the Kemmel Straight. So Russell gets swallowed up by cars coming past him, including Hamilton. So Hamilton gets lucky coming up along the inside of Russell, but then they hit coming through Les Combes, that first part of the chicane. So that's bad luck moment number one. Number two is he gets this unfair attention from the stewards, so he has to serve a penalty. Bad luck number three is because he's got this is my theory on it, because he's got this time penalty that he has to serve during the pit stop, the crew are kind of like confused about how the pit stop works. And the guy who his sole job is to adjust the front wing angle just kind of watches the pit stop unfold, then realizes at the end he's got to step in and do the front wing adjustment, gets run over by Lewis as Lewis is about to exit the pits. And so
also doesn't get the front wing adjustment done.
And doesn't do the front wing adjustment. Like, he had one job, dude. And then there's this lingering thought, is there going to be an unsafe release penalty for Lewis Hamilton, which it turns out there isn't in the end. But that's hanging over him for the whole rest of the race. And because he's changed tyres, he's now on the hard, and he hasn't had that front wing flap adjustment thingo done. He's got this sort of difficult to steer car because the front end won't grip. It's like one thing after another going against Lewis Hamilton. Man, I mean, I had this thought sort of reflecting on this today and thinking, if I wasn't a Lewis Hamilton fan, I wouldn't at all be that interested in what's going on at Ferrari, whether the things go well or not for them. I don't really have that much to say about the prancing horse. But I was thinking, is this what it's like to be a Ferrari fan? Like, can you imagine year after year turning up with hope and dreams in your heart of hearts and then having to watch either poor communication unfold or bad luck occur or bad choices on the strategy or just driver error?
This is exactly what it's like being a Ferrari fan. This is exactly what it's like.
I don't have the guts for this. This is tough stuff, mate.
Hamilton won just a few races ago in Spain. They have, dare I say it, Jason, I'm losing my voice, I'm getting too emotional. Ferrari potentially have the second quickest car on the grid right now. Their car is working for the first time in a long time, and they're still fumbling it. It reminds me of that season, I don't know what it was, like 2022 or something, when Leclerc was a genuine championship hope, and the strategy was so bad that they just fumbled Leclerc's whole campaign. Like, that probably 2022, I think it was probably the year where Leclerc should have at least had a go at winning, but no. Anyway,
so
I don't know.
That actually, coincidentally, 2022 is the current biggest ever points deficit to have been cleared to win a Formula One World Championship. Leclerc had a 46-point gap to Verstappen after round 3 or 4. And Verstappen was able to claw it back through a range of these Ferrari shenanigans and also Red Bull and nuts, Verstappen man. Brilliance. So currently, Kimi has a 50-point lead over his, not just his, he's got a 45-point lead over Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
So he's got one shy of that, biggest points deficit ever.
Yeah.
And he's got a 50-point lead over his teammate. And I have to say, it does seem like the wheels are falling off the Russell train. And whatever's going on at Mercedes is the gods are sort of smiling on one half of the garage and not the other. And nobody seems to understand what's going on. George hasn't forgotten how to drive. He hasn't lost some uncanny ability that he had. But there's something going on, and the wheels are not. How
can there be can we talk about this? There's two sides to this story, I think. In my mind, there's two sides to it. One is, or maybe three sides to this story. One is, I just think Kimi is better with these 50-50 hybrid cars, 50% engine, 50% electrical energy. I just think, in terms of strategic deployment, I think he gets it. I think he understands how to drive them, and I think he's more comfortable in them. But let's park that for a second. there's something profoundly wrong with George's car. Like, I think what George was saying at the end of this race is the reason I crashed with Lewis is because my battery deployment wasn't working properly and I had no speed on the straight. So I think like there's something like profoundly wrong with George's car. I don't know how they can't tell from the data what that is. Like why is the energy deployment working on one side of the garage with Kimi and just completely falling over for George? Or is this just an excuse? Is this just George just not driving very well or not working it out? I don't think it is. I think there is something that's not working with his engineering, with what's being engineered in his car.
During the weekend, they made comments at various points in time about trying different driving styles and also trying to make sure that the things were bolted on properly. So I don't think it's to do with driving style because that doesn't seem to be the answer. If it's literally, they haven't plugged things in properly or there's some glitch in the system, that would be, to my eyes, a very disappointing way to resolve this championship one way or the other. You really want to see tough competition. This is kind of how you opened the show, right? You want to see Kimi Antonelli have to fight for it and really earn the victory and not just kind of romp away with it, despite having currently already won 60% of the races so far this season. So it does seem like it's going that way. But you want him to have to fight for it, right?
I'm so torn with George because on one hand, George in my mind is the guy who I feel like organizes photo shoots of himself with his shirt off all the time. Like, I feel like he's that guy. I feel like he's the guy who says stuff like, had I come to Mercedes 2 years earlier, I would have 2 championships under my belt, aka against Lewis Hamilton. I feel like he's the guy who assumed he was going to win this year over Kimi. So there's a big parts of me that find George really unpalatable, but there's also a compassionate side of me, Jace, that sees this guy basically in tears in the pen today after being knocked off, after like he has put on such a brave face to being dominated by this teenager. And like take each race as it comes. I still believe in myself. But then today the cracks started showing because he had clawed back to within 25 points, like you say. And in one nudge on Lecom, he's back to minus 50 points off the lead. It's
by who? Who did the nudging as well? Like just to really rub it in.
Uncle Lewis.
You wouldn't know this. I listened to the radio after after that happened. His team radio is, dare I say, a little spicy. You can hear that he's very much laying the blame to this situation at Mercedes' feet.
Yeah.
And I think that's got to add to it as well. It's not just that he expected to win, but he expected the team to do their part in making it possible for him to win.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't seem to be happening. The Mercedes end of the bargain seems to be, really falling short to the point that he was half a second slower than his teammate around Spa-Francorchamps. Half a second.
What, in quali? You talking about quali?
Yeah. Yeah, his final run, half a second slower. Like it's a huge gap. It's an enormous gap.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge.
Kimi's just doing Kimi things. He's just going along, romping along, setting pole, winning. Even when there's this virtual safety car situation and he comes out behind Leclerc and Norris, even after all that, Kimi just kind of puts his head down and gets it done. So from George's perspective, it must be like having like a robot as a teammate, something that's just like, kind of Piastri-esque in a way, just getting the job done every time. And the only times that Kimi hasn't been on the podium this season have been when he's had mechanical failures.
Yeah.
That's
my point. If Kimi doesn't have a mechanical failure, a DNF, or doesn't have some terrible strategy decision, if neither of those things work profoundly against him, he is going to win the race. And I think I'm trying to get my head around, like, like I do think the Mercedes is the dominant car. I think it'd be foolish to say it's not the dominant car. But I think what we saw today is that it's no, like, compared to the beginning of the year, it's not that dominant. It is dominant. Like it was watching that kind of Leclerc from, like, I don't know, like over the last 10 laps, watching him catch Leclerc, pass him. What I'm used to seeing with a super dominant car, and even from Kimi this year, is that then he'll sail off and kind of, 10 seconds ahead. But, over the last 10 laps, he'll get at least half a second, maybe a second, on whoever he's just overtaken. But Leclerc clung to him, didn't he? I was like, to me, Leclerc's driver of the day, the way he clung to Kimi in what I think is better machinery. And I think that surprised Kimi as well. So maybe we're getting to a point in the season where some of the races can be a bit closer. I would dearly love them to end within a couple of tenths of a second.
Yeah.
A couple of tenths? Sorry, a couple of seconds as well.
The whole field.
That would be very close.
The whole field. Well, they did. They did end up within a couple of seconds in Silverstone, thanks to the safety car.
So
that was Kimi's undoing.
Do you think that without the safety car, Kimi would have won this by 10 seconds, or something a bit more heinous?
Yes.
Remind me what happened, because we had the virtual safety car. Ferrari double stacked, right? They brought in Leclerc and Lewis. And did Kimi stay out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
because Kimi had pitted. He pitted about 2 laps before the virtual safety car.
And Max pitted 1 lap before. Right?
They pitted around 1 or 2 laps
time.
between them. Yeah. So Antonelli, unless he wanted to pit again.
No, sorry. Okay, let's
out.
correct that for our listeners. Lap 18, Max pits. Then lap 19, Kimi pits. Okay,
and then this virtual safety car comes out. So
two virtual safety cars.
For Antonelli, it's like, okay, bad luck. Sometimes the luck goes with you and sometimes it goes against you. If we think about Barcelona, you highlighted that as a Hamilton victory. There was a virtual safety car benefit there as well. I think it was Hulkenberg whose car stopped working, and that Hamilton benefited from that. So sometimes it works for you, sometimes it works against you. In this case, it worked against Kimi because he'd already pitted. It was the benefit of Leclerc, and if he hadn't had that benefit, let's say it's like 5 or maybe 8 or 9 seconds that you gain by pitting under the virtual safety car instead of under the regular race pace. You just add that onto the end of the end of the race, and Leclerc's 7 or 9 seconds behind Antonelli rather than 2. It's hard to say.
10 seconds. So basically what you're doing, Jace, is you're undoing my whole optimistic worldview of how this is getting closer. And basically what you're saying is, without that virtual safety car, going back to my point, if something doesn't go wrong, Kimi wins by a huge amount. Basically what we're saying is that Kimi would have won probably by about 10 seconds today had we not had that virtual safety car. Great. Well, I'm going to go shoot myself in the head now. Great.
Well, but I guess maybe the
and you're right, by the way. You're definitely right.
Maybe the sort of, silver lining here is that P2 is really hot. We can celebrate P2, and that might be per race. So if you add 10 seconds to Leclerc's time, that puts him pretty much neck and neck with Verstappen. So there's, there would have been some spice there. And if you think about it from the championship perspective, Hamilton and Russell keep trading places. So P2 is sort of hotting up. It's...
Don't tell me that you care about P2 and P3 battles. You don't even... I know you,
Look,
Jason.
I'm trying to find a
care about the constructors, let alone P2 and P3.
No.
Look,
but since you brought up constructors, Antonelli now has more points than McLaren.
Oh my days.
So he himself is P3 in the constructors. This is it's funny because I remember back in the day, not that long ago, when Verstappen was so dominant and we all got really bored really quickly. And before that, Hamilton. And now it's Antonelli. And I'm a massive Antonelli fan, but I found the race kind of boring today. And I have to say...
I found it boring too. I'm glad you're saying that. I found it frustrating and boring.
Yeah. I mean, it's
like watching people just get hurt.
Top tier
performance.
Does
anyone like watching people get hurt?
Well, it's not just hurt, but also, dominating.
Lando had a 7.5 second pit stop because they couldn't get his... Listen, Lando fought from P13. Look, I'm still a little bit of a Lando fan. Like you said, we said, fought from P13. Where did he end up in like?
Oh, dude, just behind Piastri. And I think that's shocking as well. He finished just behind Piastri. Hang on, let me see. I think I got
No, Isaac.
the wrong graph up. He finished just behind Hadjar. I mean, Hadjar, got to talk about his strategy as well. But Norris finished 6 seconds behind Piastri. And he started, 8 places behind him, or 6 places behind him on the grid. And they were actually going toe-to-toe pace-wise in the race. I mean, at some point, we got to write the story of Piastri's massive fall from form. He just seems to have completely gone AWOL this year. And I remember at one point there was, I think it was Piastri, Norris, and Verstappen were all in the same little bundle. And I was having flashbacks to last year when those 3 on track going toe-to-toe was box office. And this year, anything but. But Piastri, man, Piastri's just... I mean, listen, he scraped together a P5 today, but what is happening with him? This
is my overarching meta-narrative grand theory, is that this regulation set really, for some reason, favours some drivers over others in terms of their driving style. Like, we've seen this regulation set favour Lewis Hamilton's driving style. He likes a slippery back end. He likes it right on the nose. Like, it's a smaller, more nimble car. He's clearly... And all you have to do is you have to A-B. You have to compare A and B. Last year, Leclerc and Hamilton. This year, Leclerc and Hamilton. Mm-hmm. Last year, in a lot of ways, like Lando and Piastri, like, I think... There's who else is like really like Isaac Hadjar, I think drives really well in these cars. I think Franco Colapinto, who we basically last year wrote off as not deserving to be in F1,
he's coming alive.
Is really coming alive. So I do think this regulation set is really Marmite for our drivers. Now, what do you think about the suggestion that next year we're going to go 60-40?
As opposed to 50-50?
Yeah.
It does put Hamilton a little bit in danger. You know, he could become an endangered species. I'm all in favor of it. I think we've talked about this a few times. I don't like how these guys are basically like battery engineers in the cockpit. It really it rubs me the wrong way, even if, you know, my guy's dominating, that's cool. But I just want more oomph and less, select mode 12 and the AI is able to determine battery deployment throughout the lap. That really does not work for me. Not a fan of that.
Did you hear what Lando's engineer said to him today in the race?
What did he say?
He said, "No yo-yoing, please, Lando."
You should have said that to Piastri.
Basically, what that means is like, please don't play battery deployment games with your teammate who, you know, is right there next to you, because all you'll do is you'll spend your battery getting past them, then they'll spend their battery getting past you, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, and all the while Max Verstappen will head up the road, or whoever's ahead of you. And that, I feel like that's a bit of an indictment on this 50-50 regulation set, in the sense that you've got people's engineers saying to them, don't do the thing that we know that you can do, which is basically just swap back and forth endlessly. That's not great, is it? It just kind of says, is that racing, or is that just kind of like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I welcome a 60-40. So currently we used to be 70-30. If people want to know, we used to be 70%, and then 70% engine, 30% electrical. Now we're 50-50, and the suggestion is maybe we go 60-40. So yeah,
I'm just looking forward to 2030 when we go 100-0. That's
100-0.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward. But let's talk about Hadjar, because I think he is, as you rightly point out, he's one of the drivers that's kind of come alive this year. And we think about how difficult it is to go up against a teammate like Max Verstappen. And despite Max's hatred of this formula, he still knows how to drive a car really well. But Hadjar is performing so well. And today, I think he collided with someone at the on the opening lap, which forced him to change tires on at the end of lap one. He did one lap on the medium and then went back into the pits and came out on the hard, and he made that work. He made that strategy work. Like, how? How did he make that work? That was brilliant to watch him just really make like a contra strategy work, or make the most of a bad situation. And I don't know, if you think back to Tsunoda, think back to Perez, I doubt you'd be having that same story with those guys, with the kind of issues that they've had, the kind of problems that they would have faced, and the, I don't know, mental game to get themselves back up to a position where they're challenging. You know, if, let's say, Hamilton has a penalty, if Piastri has a moment, Hadjar could have been right behind his teammate, and then you never know. So he's like, Hadjar's really impressed me this last couple of races, seeing how close and sometimes faster he is going to his teammate, and then being able to pull off some pretty gnarly strategy moves like he did today.
Yeah, totally agree. He's so hungry, and he's like temper tantrums and kind of his fiery temperament and his complaining and moaning is as you know, unpalatable as it is to listen to over the radio sometimes, is just his hunger. And, you know, I think Lewis was like that back in the day. I think Max was definitely like that. And it seems to be, unless you're Lando, who's not really like that, which is what made Lando's victory World Championship last year so unusual, is that he seems to be like quite a placid chap, and not prone to outbursts. Almost every other world champion, you know, has a fire in them that they can't contain. They have to kind of be a-holes, like, quite regularly. But yeah, I agree. He's one to watch for sure. Did you listen to, have you been listening to any of Perez talk about kind of spilling the beans on what it was like being in Red Bull for those years?
No, do tell.
He's basically said that when he joined Red Bull, Christian sat him down and said, I just want you to understand, like, I'm paraphrasing here, so no one sue me, but basically Christian Horner sat down and said, like, to be honest, if we could only have one driver in Red Bull, we would, but we have to have two, so welcome. And he basically said everything in that team, every bit of, like, the best of everything went to Max, and the scraps were for the number 2 driver. And it's just really cool just hearing him like explain what it was like. And he said, to his credit, he just said, look, I took it on the chin, decided that I still wanted to race for Red Bull, and I knew, but I was told from day one what my time there would look like in terms of resources, in terms of attention, in terms of whose campaign I was serving. And I was like, wow, Red Bull was such a brutal environment.
Yeah, wow. I guess also Perez...
Can you imagine saying that? Can you just imagine saying that to your driver? Can you imagine saying that to, like... just so you know, like, we'd really just rather have one driver.
If you could crash the car a couple of times, that'd be great.
Yeah, just do what you want, mate.
I wonder if he got, like, the best spoons as well. You know, like, if literally everything...
Just think about toilet roll.
Yeah, he gets, like, the quadruple
get the Quilton.
Toilet paper. But I think also when you think about Perez in his career trajectory, where did he come from to get into Red Bull? He was dropped by Racing Point. He was dropped. He didn't have a race seat at the end of 2020. And it just so happened that Red Bull wanted him and they brought him in. But they picked him up and said, you're here just to make the numbers, mate. It's good that you know how to drive cars. Thank you. That's great. It'd be handy if sometimes you could drive
give
just
him a
little bit too slowly.
Or give him a tow.
Well, I'm thinking Abu Dhabi 2021 when you
drove
just a little bit too slowly. Anyway, those scars are still there. Yeah, look, it's kind of... It must be depressing, but these guys get paid so much, so I can't really lose too much sleep thinking about it. But it is a bit of a bother watching those guys bumble around at the back of the field. Oh, actually, before we go there, you mentioned all of the garage being focused in one side. You've got to think that Russell's got to be feeling that way right now. You know,
I think he's definitely paranoid. That's probably the way it's going. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think it
I
is.
wonder.
I don't think that's the way Mercedes works.
I
But
agree, but I think that's got to be his mindset. He's like, I've seen it happen before. I've seen it happen before at Mercedes when Hamilton was the dominant one there. I don't want to be the Valtteri Bottas version 2, version 3. This is not working. This is not going to plan. But anyway, so Bottas, Perez, Alonso, and Stroll. Talk about making up the numbers. Those guys are just there to pad out the last few garage spots that they've got. Man, it is so bad. If you listen to them after the race, they pretty much all said, well, that was a good test session.
yeah,
We finished the race, and that was good. That's what Bottas said. We finished the race. Happy about that achievement. Perez had some kind of suspension failure. Stroll had a clutch issue. Alonso and Bottas just kind of finished the race.
so depressing.
It's really bad. It's really bad. And the median pace compared to the others is like 3 and 5 seconds a lap slower. Actually, I do have some sympathy for Alonso in this because if you watch, even on such a long circuit, they're getting lapped really quickly.
Yeah,
And so when you're getting lapped and you're constantly having to let the drivers go by that are, in the first and second place, it really ruins your race. It just destroys your race. It absolutely undoes you.
totally.
Yeah, so I can have some sympathy there, but yeah, I just had a memory also of Monaco with Russell. I was looking at his results. If he doesn't finish P1 to 4, he either retires or finishes in 12th. And I was looking at 12th going, wow, why did Russell finish 12th in Monaco? Do you remember what happened to him in Monaco?
Yeah.
Pit lane speeding penalties.
Oh my
times,
gosh.
Times 3, I think it was. Yeah. So that's tough. That's really tough. Yeah. But I have to say also, F1 is such a great domain of contrasts as well. When you think about what we've just seen in the past couple of rounds, from Austria to Great Britain to Belgium, like the
so
sort
awesome,
of
isn't it?
visual contrast, and then the performance contrast as well. I mean, it's a pretty remarkable sport, I have to say.
Yeah, it is. It's wonderful. It's why we love it. It's why I'm glad the World Cup's over. I loved watching the World Cup this year, but just a bit of a distraction for me away from F1.
It's definitely the year of the teenager, though, wouldn't you say? 19-year-olds winning all over the place.
Absolutely. Yeah, across the board.
We shall see.
Mate, how do you feel about the Hungarian GP? Are you excited? What are your thoughts on the track? What are your thoughts on the race? What teams do you think might do well there?
It's such a weird circuit. To me, it always kind of makes me think of an ice skating rink.
Yeah.
It's like got this tiny, cramped vibe. Speaking of contrast, to go from Spa-Francorchamps to the Hungaroring is just nuts.
Yeah.
It's going to be one of those circuits where, energy deployment and recharging is not going to be a problem because basically you get out of a turn and you're straight into another one.
Another turn, yeah.
Yeah.
There's just that one big straight. Well, I suppose there's like kind of turn 3. After turn 3, you've got a bit of a...
Short straights. Yeah, short straights.
Very short straights.
They've got those long, large radius corners. I don't know, man. I think it's anyone's guess who's going to turn up and perform well on the day. It comes down to temperature, tire, battery deployment, that kind of thing. If what you're saying is part of the diagnosis, then you'd have to say Kimi's probably in for a good chance of doing well again here. I think the first race you ever watched with Kimi Antonelli in it was in the Hungaroring. Isn't that right? We watched the F2 sprint race together.
Yeah. I think Ferrari's going to come alive on that track because of their ability to deal with kind of middle, kind of, cornery, heavy corner middle sectors. And I, for one, am looking forward to a track without really long straights where kind of cars, like you say, just like they just deploy their batteries and then kind of fizzle out, I'm kind of looking forward to that. I think it might suit this regulation set about the best.
considering how closely they can follow. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's a good point. Thinking back to what was it in Great Britain, like they're just being able to follow so closely. So yeah, and despite it being a bit of a rinky-dink track, which I kind of like in a way, it's very flowing. So you really need to be able to sort of follow closely, keep those lines. Yeah, I think you're probably right about Ferrari. So maybe we can predict ourselves a Ferrari success here. Which one of the Ferrari drivers do you think is better placed then? Because Leclerc's kind of bounced back a bit, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, he has, but yeah, I guess they've both won one GP each, haven't they? Yeah, I don't know. Like overall, not really. Like Lewis is sitting on 159 points, and well, it's only 30 odd points between them. Yeah, maybe he's definitely seems more comfortable with the car, and like I said today, for me, Leclerc was driver of the day for just that tenacity. I think in that situation with Kimi today, where kind of Lewis is overtaken by... If Lewis had been overtaken by Kimi, I would have seen Lewis just kind of... His mindset, I think, once he knows he's not going to win it, he kind of drops off. But Leclerc just fought. So yeah, maybe. Maybe.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a really good test.
You see Hamilton say things like, "Oh, this is the best I could do with the wing that I've got." Boo-hoo. Sometimes...
Yeah, that was a bit of a subtle dig, wasn't it? Like,
sometimes you sort of think, come on, mate. Just... You didn't get a turn of the wing, but you also nearly ran someone over. So, like, have some perspective.
You ended someone's race.
Yeah.
Who's now crying, like
He's
literally
in tears.
crying.
He's in tears. Come on, think of the children. There was a funny moment towards the start of the race where I was looking at Lewis going, what tyres is he on? What tyre set is he on? Because the way his front left wheel hit Russell's, it completely rubbed off the colour. So I just couldn't see what colour it was, but it was just that front left tyre that he was using.
That's hilarious.
I was thinking, who's got fully black tyres? This is a bit strange. Yeah. Anyway, Hey, can we talk a little bit about Leclerc's aggressive driving style coming up to Le Combe? What did you think of that? Like, he was a menace. Nearly, like, he took off some of Piastri's front wing. They even had to warn Lando Norris. Oh, was it Kimi Antonelli? Yeah, Bono came on the radio.
It was Kimi,
warned Kimi, by the way, Leclerc's being a bit of a menace coming up to Le Combe. Like, that was a bit much, and he did not get a penalty.
If you don't, just in case you don't know what we're talking about the Carmel Straight, where basically Leclerc seemed to want to squeeze everyone off onto the grass as they were about to overtake him. Like Jay says, took a chunk out of Piastri. Had Kimi's engineer, had Bono warning Kimi, like, careful, he's squeezing people. I don't know. I think, I wonder if he's just taken a bit of a leaf out of Max's book in a way. I wonder if he's just been like, I'm the nice guy of the sport. I'm the pretty boy and the nice boy. I'm very, very nice guy. 360 nice guy. But like, what if I just start, pushing the rules to the limits? What happens then? Oh, what happens then, Leclerc? What happens is you end up getting a P2 and you don't get overtaken. And you knock a chunk off Piastri's wing, wreck his downforce. So yeah, maybe keep doing that, Leclerc. If you can get away with it.
No, we don't want our beautiful Leclerc learning these lessons. This is we do not want that happening.
He's dirty.
But actually, that does answer something from earlier, where I was basically giving Piastri the cold shoulder. But losing that part of your wing and all the downforce and all that sort of thing would tend to wreck someone's race. So I guess that does explain a little bit why Piastri's performance really dropped off after being basically, smashed into from our good friend Charles Leclerc. I think also maybe to be a little bit generous to Leclerc, the visibility in these cars is pretty poor. So, maybe he just didn't quite see how close they were together. Okay, all right, you're not buying that.
Very generous.
I'm being generous. But, yeah. Okay, all right. But thinking forward to Hungaroring, there have been some amazing moments there. One example would be Fernando Alonso's defense of, I think, Lewis Hamilton in 2021, the year that Esteban Ocon won the race there. And that was all down to Fernando Alonso putting in a defensive masterclass and keeping Lewis Hamilton behind him for long enough that Lewis was then not able to catch up and challenge Ocon. And also Ocon held off Sebastian Vettel, who's no slouch as well. So that's exciting. I think
what's the overtaking like in Hungary?
It's very difficult. It's like
it's very difficult,
Monaco,
right? Yeah. It's tough.
Yeah, and then there was also last year when Max Verstappen nearly put Hamilton into the wall coming up to turn 4. So there's, a little bit of joy there as well. Also, Yuki Tsunoda had some crazy airplane type crash in qualifying last year.
Yeah.
That was nuts. I didn't understand that at all. Look, yeah. I think it's just one of those buckle up and hope for the best type tracks.
Good. And, if you don't like Monaco, or if you don't like Hungary, or if you don't like any track on the calendar for any given reason, just be grateful that track exists, because it's a point of difference to all the other tracks that you love. I just think anything that's a point of difference, anything that kind of tests these drivers in a different way, we should welcome, and the variety of the tracks we have is pretty amazing. In surfing, Jace, I don't know if you follow the World Surfing Championship, but we've got I follow it very closely. We've got about 10 or to 12 events across the year, and then eventually Kelly Slater, the most successful surfer in the world, created a wave pool, a ranch called the Surf Ranch, a mechanical wave pool, and the World Surf League said, why don't we have one extra event at your wave pool? And people got really upset because they were like, well, this wave is it's not the ocean, it's not real, we're surfers, you got this mechanical thing that creates exactly the same wave again and again and again. But it ended up being really fun because all these amazing surfers had to surf on a mechanical wave and show how good they were on a wave that was exactly the same, which actually is what I think what this would mean for F1 is everyone has to get in the same car one race a year. Yeah. That would be so sick. Wouldn't that be cool if we just had a blank car that you got maybe on the summer break you got 3 weeks to drive it as much as you want in your home practice circuit, and then everyone had to drive that car on week 4.
Yeah. Wow. So that's an amazing suggestion. I love it.
Isn't that cool? Wouldn't that be cool?
So much. Which circuit would you suggest? One on the current calendar or a gimme circuit that's slightly different?
Okay, hear me out. Hydrofoils at a wave pool. Joking. No, I don't know. I mean, maybe because Silverstone was so recent, I just think it tests every element of driving. Something like Silverstone would be fun. Not a street circuit. You want a classic circuit. Maybe Spa. Maybe Spa or Silverstone. Not Monaco.
Vote, not Monaco, for sure. And not the Hungaroring, to be fair. I reckon a really fun circuit for something like that would be Istanbul Park.
Yeah.
Istanbul Park is a much beloved circuit. It hasn't been on the calendar since 2020 or 2021. It was a COVID comeback track. It's such a fun circuit. That's the only time I think Lance Stroll has gotten pole position ever in Formula One, driving for Racing Point at the time. But yeah, it's a great circuit, and I think that'd be a fun one to try, that kind of vanilla thing. The other one that might be this is closer to actually what you're describing, which is Abu Dhabi. In the at the end of the season, they often get this whole raft of F3 drivers coming through to F2 and F2 drivers coming up and doing the sort of post-season test, and they're all there at the same time on the same tyres with roughly the same machinery, sort of. So you get a little bit of that. Fun times. You don't think the Lego cars would be the solution here?
With a decent engine, I think that could be amazing. That could be amazing. Get them going 50 kilometers an hour, and then we're talking.
Yeah, awesome.
Okay,
cool,
mate.
Where to from here? I think it's hit the bus, go down the road for one last jaunt before the summer break. I, like you, have been embarrassed by the glut of sport that we've had recently with the World Cup, and now we're on the brink of basically nothing. We're going to have to find some other way to entertain ourselves, and I, for one, am not happy about this.
You've got to renovate your house, mate. You can focus on that for a month.
I was giving you an opportunity to say, like, you have to spend time with your family or something, like give a little jab like that. Look, I think we're going to have to make the most of it. This weird circuit that we're going to, as you say, is a very mature view that you've got of sort of celebrating the difference and seeing what it has to offer and sort of rolling in that emotion.
See you in Hungary, my friend.
See you there.